All right, we are live, and this time I have to remember where the camera is because we've got a couple different monitors here. I'm with the, I want to say legendary, but he's too humble for me to say that, George Nuber from Geotruth, the man that has been blessed with some skills for math. If you did not catch our previous live hangouts where he was talking about a lot of the math associated with the eclipse that happened on April 8th, go back and watch those. I think I have them all linked in the description. If not, I will add the more recent one. That may be the one that's missing. But before I keep talking, let's make sure we have sound and you guys can hear us. Someone says it has begun. Who was that? King of Hueco Mundo. We got Robert Daniels in the house. Lots of awesome people. I know there's crazy stuff going on in the media right now. We're going to try not to talk about that, as tempting as it may seem. And
Jeremy's here.
All of that. We got Jeremy. Oh, Jeremy in the house.
Here. He did his presentation. Awesome presentation.
Yeah, great presentation. It opened some eyes there. He even had the great mind Ben from Taboo Conspiracy talking about it.
Right.
Pretty cool stuff. Beloved brother Tyler Porter. Seven Dome Shalom. We got Just Lolly, if I can see that name. I might have to zoom in. Might be about time to get me some glasses. I'm
gonna have to use mine.
May have to humble down and get some of those. But we'll be sharing a mic. It'll be a pass the mic event, and I'll have George. He'll take over and he's going to present his stuff. I'll just be here learning with you guys, and then hopefully somebody can break it down so I can understand it, and some of us can understand it later on. But pay close attention. This is, he's doing this stuff for free instruction. He does a lot of free things. Him and his wife. We're actually on our way home. We went to the northeastern part of the U.S. and now we're going back. And he was nice enough to let us stop and crash his place. He's got an awesome wife, Teresa, and they do music together. And my goodness, he's told me they do music, but now we got to see some samples of it, and it's really good. These two are really good, and they do it for a good cause. They do charity work where they donate 100% to the charities, and they play music at these places and, do fundraisers. It's awesome, because if I can sing, it would be hard to be humble if I could do what they did. But then using those gifts for the Most High it's amazing. So really cool to see that in action and see those two in action using their skills. And so we're going to go ahead. I don't want to waste too much time. I just want to say hey to a bunch of people that are here, and we will let George, we'll pull his presentations up, unless he just wanted to say some things before we get started.
No, I'm just so blessed to have Josh and his family here. We finally get to meet the rest of the family, Amber, his wife, and his 3 children. And it's just a blessing. We met first at the Flattoberfest in 2021, I believe it was.
Yeah.
And that's where we first started to meet. And I was starting to think about doing the Geotruth because I was seeing all this true information that the Father was showing me. And so I was asking them a lot of questions. Josh, Sean Griffin of Kingdom in Context, Matt Beavers, Back to the Covenant. I was going to say Back to the Future. But because I didn't know anything about how to start a YouTube channel or even, the name of it. I figured Geotruth was a proper thing because it's geo is the earth. I want to explain the truth about the earth that I've learned through Yahweh's scriptures, and then also through what I've seen with the Naval Observatory data. Okay, because that's what everybody uses on the earth to navigate with. So it was a blessing to meet them there for the first time, and I've seen Josh at a couple other times. But we wanted to have him here at our house to really get to know each other. It was a blessing yesterday to do Sabbath fellowship with him and Sabbath Bible study with him and Amber and Teresa and I. And we're just so glad that he's here. He'll probably be heading back home tomorrow, but he's been here for a couple of days, and we got to do it sometime again in the future.
For sure.
Yeah. And we're going to do some more testing when we're done with this presentation. I've got my garage full of, I got 5 vacuum chambers in there. And we're going to do basically an observational test. I've already done the calculations when two gases at different pressures and different volumes combine, they come to an equilibrium. I've already got it calculated, and now we're going to observe it. The calculations actually show the truth. And this will hopefully be maybe a step in one of his teachings in creation standards. So yeah, I really want to partner with Josh to do these things at different levels, age levels.
Yeah, that's a blessing, and that's what I was thinking. Maybe we should go live when all this is going on, but I think I'm going to record the vacuum experiments and then we'll share a little bit, and then use that for our creation standard, like George was saying. There's like going to be a unit where we're talking about things like thrust in a vacuum. Is that a conspiracy theory that you can't do it? And so he's gonna be helping me figure these things out in real time. So I'm excited he's letting us do that. He's got everything set up. It's like a science little warehouse with the vacuum chambers, everything's set. So that's what we're doing as soon as we leave here.
Right.
Is
Late in the night.
Straight to the lab. You'll be up probably 1 a.m, and wives are gonna probably come hunting us down. But
yeah, so I'm obviously still learning what to do on a YouTube channel or any type of channel that you're trying to explain things to people. Josh has been helping me out quite a bit. So tonight, what I want to do, there's actually 3 separate presentations that will go from one to the other. And I did a full, I think it was a 30-day video back in October, each day, taking pictures and filming the moon and the sun every day to show and prove that the moon is a light. And the closer it gets to the sun, it has less light. And with the Nikon P1000 camera, I can zoom in and just show where there was light before, it's nothing but darkness. So it is some type of energy plasma. And obviously I know it's obvious only through scriptures and then observation, that in a new moon, the moon is literally visible. They're invisible, sorry. And there's no light. And that's why it's invisible. There's no light in it. It's just the way that Yahweh created it. They're pretty much like opposite charges. The sun's a positive charge. The moon's a negative charge. Farthest the moon gets away from the sun, it's a full moon, 100% charge. So we're going to walk through the lunar cycle that occurred on March 11th to April 8th, where everybody was excited about the April 8th solar event. And then after that, I'm going to go into a presentation where I actually go into just a small segment of that lunar cycle, which is the time when the moon was at 0% illumination, which would be a new moon. And it turns out it's 27 hours and 34 minutes. And I'm going to go into great detail about that, because with the navigational data, it shows you literally where the sun and the moon is above the circular level plane Earth. It's plain and clear. The thing, though, you have to watch out is that on a new moon, it's invisible. So they could play with the data on the navigational data, but I still think it's accurate. And when we see a new moon, and it's the total eclipse area where they've got the total eclipse, it's always got the sun and the moon have the same altitude angle and azimuth angle to make it geometrically look like the moon is in front of the sun. But let's get started. So we're going to talk about the full lunar cycle first, go through just a new moon cycle, and then after that, we're going to talk about the laws and property of light, especially concerning the moon. Emanating light versus reflected light. Okay. So go ahead and put up the first presentation. That's it there. Yeah. So I have to put my glasses on. So I'm just showing here in the first pages that this is a circle level plane Earth, Gleason's map, and it kind of quickly shows where the sun and the moon is. First quarter moon, full moon, third quarter moon, and new moon. You just see the sun. But this is coming from the observational data, the U.S. Naval Observatory data that we're going to dig in through right now. And it's going to get, this, I'm going to recap because people have seen previous videos of where the truth of where we live on the earth and the heavens above. So this is the physical characteristics of the sun and the moon based on Almighty Yahweh's scriptures, navigational data, and the navigational data of the United States Naval Observatory, double triangulation, and observing using a Nikon P1000 camera. The physical characteristics of the sun and moon are as follows. So here's all what we're using. We're using Yahweh's scripture. We're doing actual navigational data that we see here on Earth, where the sun and moon are. We're using geometry, double triangulation, and our own observations. So all these things are scientific. Okay. Except Yahweh's scripture is the base of all of it. He's the foundation because he caused it. The sun and moon are lights/luminaires. Not a physical gaseous fireball mass, or not a spherical solid mass. We see these in these different scriptures, okay? And First Enoch and Jubilees is Yahweh's scripture. They've been purposely taken out of the canons to hide these truths. And then lastly, the second thing, observations through a Nikon P1000 camera. This is where we're using our own eyes to make decisions about what we truly see. The sun and the moon circle above our circular level plane Earth clockwise. The sun is the Earth's clock, circling 1 revolution a day. First Enoch 72:2. And the navigational data of the United States Naval Observatory will show you this too. The sun always circles the Earth clockwise at 3,107 miles above sea level, an average speed of 4 minutes per degree of longitude, which is time, okay? And always travels north or south at an average of 0.258 degrees of latitude per day, which equals 17.8 miles per day. That's what the sun does. Those are the laws that Yahweh's given them. That's in Enoch, First Enoch chapter 2, and the navigational data of the Naval Observatory and double triangulation. Is that the last of that one there? Yes. So we're going to continue with the physical characteristics. The moon always circles the Earth clockwise at 3,062 miles above sea level, according to the navigational data of the United States Observatory and double triangulation. So you see, when you compare the elevations, the moon is 45 miles below the sun, and they have to be close if they're the same size, which they are. We'll get to that next. Whereas they tell us, you know, the sun is 93 million miles away from Earth and the moon is 235,000. They have different sizes. They've got distance to diameter ratios. So if you look at those distance to diameter ratios from what they tell us and now apply it to what the navigational data showed in the double triangulation, we'll get to here where it says the sun and the moon are light disks of the same size, approximately 30 miles in diameter. That's where that comes from. So now you take the distance diameter ratios of each, the sun and the moon that NASA tells us, and now use the actual distances that we know from the navigational data and double triangulation, then they come practically the same size. It's like 30 miles or 29 each one. So very, very close. And they have to be. If they're going to be the same size, they've got to be practically at the same elevation. Otherwise, one's going to look smaller than the other. And we see this in First Enoch 72:37 and First Enoch 78:3. And there's the other, I mentioned it before, the navigational data of the United States Observatory and double triangulation. And there's the distance diameter ratios that I mentioned. And also observing with a Nikon P1000 camera. I've been doing some of that too. And it's based on latitudes. You know, the sun is always moving either north or south latitude. It just came the farthest north latitude. We just had the summer solstice. It's going farther south. On the circular level plane, it's going south. The moon, you'll see the data here tonight. The moon, that's why she's called a she. She goes all over the place. The sun is the clock. She follows the sun and her pattern. Okay, and I was right. That's that. You know, Enoch calls the sun a he and the moon a she. Because when the sun is slowly going north, which we'll see for this cycle, we're going to talk about, on different phases of the sun, the moon is going 28 plus 28 latitude down to minus 28 latitude and comes right back around during the new moon. It's right next to the sun. So she's really going, and you'll see the actual kind of an oval cycle that it does. The lunar cycle occurs on average 29.5 days when the sun has lapped. Okay. When the sun has lapped the moon from the new moon to new moon, one cycle, where the sun has lapped the moon. The average speed of the moon is 4.14 minutes per degree of longitude of time. This results in the moon lagging behind the sun and average 13 degrees of longitude per day. And it changes each time, but the average is 13. This is in First Enoch chapter 78 and 79. Navigational data of the United States Naval Observatory provides that. Observations using the naked eye and the Nikon P1000 camera. You can literally, if you start realizing that the sun is moving 13 degrees of longitude of time, 15 degrees of longitude is 1 hour, by the way. There are 24 hours, and if you take 15 degrees times 24, you get 360 degrees. When anybody looks at a clock on a wall, a circular clock on a wall, it's telling you that the Earth is a circular level plane because the Earth is a clock and the sun is at the timer for it. You know. And again, observations using the naked eye and the Nikon P1000 camera. So what I've been doing now is when I know exactly each day on my longitude line, which would be high noon or high high noon or high moon. It's crossing over. It's going to be at highest elevation, closest altitude to me. Not highest elevation, but closest altitude. I'm taking pictures of the moon when I know it's farther south, way farther south than the sun, and then I keep them at the same picture of 1500 millimeter zoom in, and when I compare them, the moon is definitely smaller by a little bit. You would never ever see that with the naked eye, but with the P1000 camera, it shows you. I'm going to do the other opposite way too, where the sun is farther south and the moon is closer north. We're going to see the same thing. Okay, that's just normal geometry and perspective. And NASA themselves actually says, if you can look it up, that the average lunar cycle is 29.5 days, which agrees with Yahweh's statements, his scriptures. There's also the electromagnetic characteristics of the sun and moon that I mentioned before, based on Yahweh's scripture and the data from the United States Observatory using double triangulation and observation using the Nikon camera. The electromagnetic characteristics of the sun and the moon are this. Throughout the lunar cycle, the illumination of the moon is based on how close the sun is to the moon. It's simple. That's all it is. And again, they're on a circular level plane and they're same altitudes. Each have their own altitude, and they're doing an electromagnetic characteristic of charging going on as they do that. During a new moon, the sun and the moon are at the same longitude, same timeline, and are between 0.3 to 0.5 degrees of latitude, which is about 20 to 30 miles south or north of each other, resulting by the new moon having 0% light and is invisible. During a full moon, the sun and moon are separated by 180 degrees of longitude or 12 hours of time, resulting in the moon having 100% light because it's fully charged now. This is in 1st Enoch chapter 78. And the navigational data of the United States Observatory, double triangulation, and observing it again with Nikon P1000 camera and your naked eye. This is a busy chart. So I'm just going to go over through it. I don't know how well people can see it on their screens. You need to have this on like a flat TV or something like this. It'd be hard to watch this on, on your phone. But so what this is, it's a complete lunar cycle from March 10th. I did March 10th. That was the end of the previous cycle, which was a new moon coming in on March 11th, the first by the cycle. And so you can see on the left column, it's day of cycle. So it goes from 0, which would have been March 10th, and I've got the date next to it. And you scroll on down, and we get all the way to basically 29th day is April 8th. So this lunar cycle is 29 days. They're either 29 or 30, and 29 in 6 months of the year and 30 in 6 months of a year. So when you add them up, it's 254 days for the year for a moon, which Enoch tells us that. And I think Jubilees does too. Yeah. And so what I did here, I had to use UTC as universal time so that it keeps everything in perspective time-wise. Okay, so it was 1810 was a universal time. Now I'm into the first column is all the information about the sun. And this is coming straight out of the navigational data. And then next column is latitude, which is how far north and south it is. And then longitude tells me what timeline they're on. What timeline? Is it, where its location is on the Earth's time clock. And I did the same thing with the moon, same UTC time, 1810. So they're all going to be located to, where they're at during the cycle. Latitude of the moon as it's going each day, north or south, and the longitude as well. And then the illumination level of the moon as we go through the cycle. So you can see on that right side column, as we go through the cycle, the moon is charging up. It's getting more and more illumination all the way down to we get to pretty much, it's kind of stuck with this thing I said, but it goes to 0% at day 29. What you see so I kind of color coded it here. Gray was the previous cycle. The blue here is basically the first quarter moon. The yellow is the 15th day, which now it's the full moon, 100%. Then the 22nd day, April 1st, was the third quarter moon, and at the bottom, at the gray, it's the new moon. So it gives you an indication of where we're at. But let's just look real quick on the sun latitude column. The sun moves very slowly because it's a time clock. It goes between minus 23.44 latitude south, which is where it would stop for the winter solstice and come back. And it goes all the way up to plus 23.44 latitude north, which is a summer solstice, and then goes back. That's its cycle, going back and forth. So it goes for a full year. We'll just say down in the winter solstice, it goes up, takes 6 months to get to summer solstice, and then goes back south for the next 6 months to the winter solstice. That's a full year. And of course, we have the equinox in there as well for spring and fall as it goes back and forth. But if you look at the latitude column for the sun, it just creeps along. It's just creeping along, and it makes sense that because we're coming out of the but we're coming right here. Where is it? During this lunar cycle, we're actually having it go across the equator for the spring equinox. It starts minus 3.7, so it's south of the equator, and as we go through time, or each day, you can see it's creeping along, and right in here, 19th and 20th, which we know, 19th it was pretty much in the eastern United States, the 20th it was over pretty much on the other side of the circular level plane Earth, and then it keeps slowly creeping north because it's still going north for the summer solstice. Now let's take a look at the moon's longitude. This is what I'm talking about, how crazy she goes. She's at the latitude, I'm sorry, the moon's latitude. She's at minus 3.18. When she's at her first quarter moon, look, she's all the way out at 28.56 latitude degrees north. That's farther north than the sun goes from the summer solstice. And now it's going to come back. It goes back down past the equator south for the full moon. And now it's going even farther south for the third quarter moon. So the quarter moons, the moon is very far north or south latitude compared to the sun. She travels crazy. And then you'll see she comes right back to the sun. When we look at this, where the new moon is, we'll look at 7.9 degree latitude for the moon. And now we're at 7.6 degrees. And 7.9, it makes sense because it's farther north than the sun. And if they wanted to show a real eclipse, the moon would be in front of the sun because the sun's a little bit behind it by 0.3 degrees latitude. Okay, that kind of a quick explanation. We're going to follow these now and show that actual locations on a video. I think we're going to have, yeah. So go ahead and play video 1, and we'll just it's got its own audio with it. Okay, so make sure you got audio on.
Sequence of lunar cycle from March 10th, 2024 to April 8th, 2024 presentation. This table shows the complete 29-day lunar cycle of the Sun and Moon from March 10th, 2024 to April 8th, 2024 at Coordinated Universal Time, or UTC, 1810. The latitude and longitude locations of the Sun and Moon are shown each day of the lunar cycle, including the percent illumination of the Moon each day. The data source for this table is from the United States Naval Observatory Navigational Data Services, altitude and azimuth of the Sun or Moon during one day. The Sun circles clockwise east to west approximately 3,107 miles above the circular level plane Earth, one complete revolution, which is 360 degrees of longitude each day. The Moon circles clockwise east to west approximately 3,062 miles above the circular level plane Earth, but slower than the Sun. The Moon circles clockwise an average of 13 degrees of longitude less than the Sun each day. This results in the Moon lagging behind the Sun an average of 52 minutes each day. A lunar cycle occurs because the Sun laps the Moon on average once every 29.5 days. Next we will see the actual location of the Sun and Moon during each day of the lunar cycle on the circular level plane Earth Gleason's map. March 10th, 2024 is the 29th day or last day of the previous lunar cycle. The Moon is in its new moon phase and the Sun has lapped the Moon. Day 1 of lunar cycle, March 11th, 2024. Moon is 3% illuminated. The moon is behind the sun, 1 hour and 13 minutes. Day 2 of lunar cycle, March 12th, 2024. Moon is 8% illuminated. The moon is behind the sun, 2 hours and 2 minutes. Day 3 of lunar cycle, March 13th, 2024. Moon is 16% illuminated. The moon is behind the sun, 2 hours and 53 minutes. Day 4 of lunar cycle, March 14th, 2024. Moon is 25% illuminated. The moon is behind the sun, 3 hours and 46 minutes. Day 5 of lunar cycle, March 15th, 2024. Moon is 35% illuminated. The moon is behind the sun, 4 hours and 40 minutes. Day 6 of lunar cycle, March 16th, 2024. Moon is 46% illuminated. The moon is behind the sun, 5 hours and 35 minutes. Day 7 of lunar cycle, March 17th, 2024. Moon is 56% illuminated, and it's a first quarter moon. The moon is behind the sun, 6 hours and 29 minutes. Day 8 of lunar cycle, March 18th, 2024. Moon is 66% illuminated. The moon is behind the sun, 7 hours and 22 minutes. Day 9 of lunar cycle, March 19th, 2024. Moon is 75% illuminated. The moon is behind the sun, 8 hours and 12 minutes. Day 10 of lunar cycle, March 20th, 2024. Moon is 83% illuminated. The moon is behind the sun, 8 hours and 59 minutes. Day 11 of lunar cycle, March 21st, 2024. Moon is 89% illuminated. The moon is behind the sun, 9 hours and 42 minutes. Day 12 of lunar cycle, March 22nd, 2024. Moon is 94% illuminated. The moon is behind the sun, 10 hours and 24 minutes. Day 13 of lunar cycle, March 23rd, 2024. Moon is 98% illuminated. The moon is behind the sun, 11 hours and 3 minutes. Day 14 of lunar cycle, March 24th, 2024. Moon is 100% illuminated. The moon is behind the sun, 11 hours and 41 minutes. Day 15 of lunar cycle, March 25th, 2024. Moon is 100% illuminated. It's at a full moon. The moon is ahead of the sun, 11 hours and 41 minutes. Day 16 of lunar cycle, March 26th, 2024. Moon is 98% illuminated. The moon is ahead of the sun, 11 hours and 2 minutes. Day 17 of lunar cycle, March 27th, 2024. Moon is 95% illuminated. The moon is ahead of the sun, 10 hours and 21 minutes. Day 18 of lunar cycle, March 28th, 2024. Moon is 89% illuminated. The moon is ahead of the sun, 9 hours and 38 minutes. Day 19 of lunar cycle, March 29th, 2024. Moon is 82% illuminated. The moon is ahead of the sun, 8 hours and 51 minutes. Day 20 of lunar cycle, March 30th, 2024. Moon is 74% illuminated. The moon is ahead of the sun, 8 hours and 2 minutes. Day 21 of lunar cycle, March 31st, 2024. Moon is 65% illuminated. The moon is ahead of the sun, 7 hours and 7 minutes. Day 22 of lunar cycle, April 1st, 2024. Moon is 54% illuminated. It's a third quarter moon. The moon is ahead of the sun, 6 hours and 11 minutes. Day 23 of lunar cycle, April 2nd, 2024. Moon is 43% illuminated. The moon is ahead of the sun, 5 hours and 14 minutes. Day 24 of lunar cycle, April 3rd, 2024. Moon is 32% illuminated. The moon is ahead of the sun, 4 hours and 18 minutes. Day 25 of lunar cycle, April 4th, 2024. Moon is 22% illuminated. The moon is ahead of the sun, 3 hours and 23 minutes. Day 26 of lunar cycle, April 5th, 2024. Moon is 13% illuminated. The moon is ahead of the sun, 2 hours and 31 minutes. Day 27 of lunar cycle, April 6th, 2024. Moon is 6% illuminated. The moon is ahead of the sun, 1 hour and 40 minutes. Day 28 of lunar cycle, April 7th, 2024. Moon is 2% illuminated. The moon is ahead of the sun, 51 minutes. Day 29 of lunar cycle, April 8th, 2024. Moon is 0% illuminated. It's a new moon. The moon is invisible. The lunar cycle is complete. The moon is ahead of the sun by 1 minute. Next, we will see a quick sequence of the 29-day lunar cycle from March 10th, 2024 to April 8th, 2024. Sequence.
So the video in the data showed, the video showed the data that the moon she goes way north or south during quarter cycles. It's amazing. She comes right back to the sun because she has to for the new moon cycle. So now we're going to go to the second part where we're going to show, here we go. Yes. So now I'm using another way to show the movement of the sun and the moon using my AutoCAD. And so what you're seeing here, the spokes coming out, that's the longitude lines, and the ones that are like the circular targets going farther out, those are the latitude lines. So it's basically the same thing we saw on the Gleason's map, but now without the map, okay? This is going to show a little bit better of what's going on and show you the beautiful geometric pattern that's occurring between the sun and the moon. And I'm going to, this is the same data we just saw, okay? I think I'm going to focus on the latitude, the differences in the latitude movement with what the moon does here compared to the sun. But that's the same data. And so we're going to go ahead and play the next video. It's going to show how much more the moon moves latitude-wise than the sun. It's so many miles, a lot more miles than the sun.
Sequence of sun and moon locations during a new moon, April 8th, 2024 to April 9th, 2024. April 8th, 2024, 0433 UTC, hour 0. April 8th, 2024, 0533 UTC, hour 1. April 8th, 2024, 0633 UTC, hour 2. April 8th, 2024, 0733 UTC, hour 3. April 8th, 2024, 08.
All right.
Sorry, guys.
We skipped the video. Yeah, we got to get the right one on. That's coming later, a little bit later.
Action, we'll put on video 2 here.
Yeah.
This is video 2.
Yeah.
Moon lunar cycle pattern, March 10th, 2024 to April 8th, 2024. This table shows a complete 29-day lunar cycle of the sun and moon from March 10th, 2024 to April 8th, 2024 at Coordinated Universal Time, or UTC 1810. The latitude and longitude locations of the sun and moon are shown each day of the lunar cycle, including the percent illumination of the moon each day. As shown on the sun's latitude column, during this lunar cycle, the sun is constantly moving north. As shown on the moon's latitude column, during this lunar cycle, the moon is traveling north from day 1 to day 7, south from day 8 to day 22, and north from day 23 to day 29. March 10th, 2024 is the 29th day or last day of the previous lunar cycle. The moon is in its new moon phase and the sun has lapped the moon. The table shows the latitude location of the sun and moon. Each day of the lunar cycle, the sun and moon's latitude location will be shown on this table. The table will also show the sun's and moon's total latitude degrees traveled each day of the lunar cycle. Day 1 of the lunar cycle, March 11th, 2024, the moon is 3% illuminated. Day 2 of the lunar cycle, March 12th, 2024, Moon is 8% illuminated. Day 3 of lunar cycle, March 13th, 2024. Moon is 16% illuminated. Day 4 of lunar cycle, March 14th, 2024. Moon is 25% illuminated. Day 5 of lunar cycle, March 15th, 2024. Moon is 35% illuminated. Day 6 of lunar cycle, March 16th, 2024. Moon is 46% illuminated. Day 7 of lunar cycle, March 17th, 2024. Moon is 56% illuminated and is a first quarter moon. The moon is at its farthest north latitude of 28.56 degrees. Day 8 of lunar cycle, March 18th, 2024. Moon is 66% illuminated. Day 9 of lunar cycle, March 19th, 2024. Moon is 75% illuminated. Day 10 of lunar cycle, March 20th, 2024. Moon is 83% illuminated. Day 11 of lunar cycle, March 21st, 2024. Moon is 89% illuminated. Day 12 of lunar cycle, March 22nd, 2024. Moon is 94% illuminated. Day 13 of lunar cycle, March 23rd, 2024. Moon is 98% illuminated. Day 14 of lunar cycle, March 24th, 2024. Moon is 100% illuminated. Day 15 of lunar cycle, March 25th, 2024. Moon is 100% illuminated at full moon. Moon is 180 degrees of longitude from the sun, which equals 12 hours difference. Day 16 of lunar cycle, March 26, 2024. Moon is 98% illuminated. Day 17 of lunar cycle, March 27th, 2024. Moon is 95% illuminated. Day 18 of lunar cycle, March 28th, 2024. Moon is 89% illuminated. Day 19 of lunar cycle, March 29th, 2024. Moon is 82% illuminated. Day 20 of lunar cycle, March 30th, 2024. Moon is 74% illuminated. Day 21 of lunar cycle, March 31st, 2024. Moon is 65% illuminated. Day 22 of lunar cycle, April 1st, 2024. Moon is 54% illuminated. It's in the third quarter moon. The moon is at its farthest south latitude of minus 28.45 degrees. Day 23 of lunar cycle, April 2nd, 2024. Moon is 43% illuminated. Day 24 of lunar cycle, April 3rd, 2024. Moon is 32% illuminated. Day 25 of lunar cycle, April 4th, 2024. Moon is 22% illuminated. Day 26 of lunar cycle, April 5th, 2024. Moon is 13% illuminated. Day 27 of lunar cycle, April 6th, 2024. Moon is 6% illuminated. Day 28 of lunar cycle, April 7th, 2024. Moon is 2% illuminated. Day 29 of lunar cycle, April 8th, 2024. Moon is 0% illuminated. It's at a new moon, invisible, and the lunar cycle is complete. The sun and moon are the closest to each other. The sun and moon are only 0.3 latitude degrees apart, which equals 21 miles. and they are only 0.22 longitude degrees apart, which equals 1 minute. During the lunar cycle, the Sun traveled 10.9 degrees of latitude north, which equals 752 miles. During the lunar cycle, the Moon traveled 60.79 degrees of latitude north and 57.01 degrees of latitude south, which totals to 8,128 miles. This lunar cycle is typical of all lunar cycles, which represents the physical and electromagnetic relationship between the Sun and Moon, as described in 1st Enoch. Next, we will see a quick sequence of the 29-day lunar cycle pattern from March 10th, 2024 to April 8th, 2024.
Oh, I think, okay.
All right, that was some cool animations. We got George adding some more presentations to the studio, and so that's some cool stuff. He was talking earlier about him taking pictures of the sun and moon with his P1000 and the moon being smaller, and I think it's interesting you brought that up because I had done that years ago using the same zoom and of course using a solar filter with the sun on the exact same day, and the moon was quite a bit smaller, and it was so small. If there was eclipse, it would have looked ridiculous if it had happened at that point. But it was a full moon, and so yeah, I didn't understand that, but now I'm thinking about it the way he's describing it and viewing that on a geocentric Earth with that moon making those crazy paths and being at a different distance, but also being, so close. It makes perfect sense why I was taking a picture of the moon and the sun on the same day, and the moon seems so much smaller. It's because of that crazy path, like you saw in his animations. It's all over the place, and I think I've noticed that myself when we go out. Like we used to, we have a ridge out, from our house, so we can see where the moon comes up, where it rises, and its location seems to change so much compared to the sun. The sun is more regular, and that moon, like George said, is all over the place. And so cool to see the math behind it on a geocentric flat plane versus on a globe where it's never really made a whole lot of sense. And so this is some cool things that he has gone just painstakingly through and done piece by piece. Something my wife always tells me, you have patience to work on those videos, but seeing this, I'm like, man, he has some patience and some skills with AutoCAD. If you don't know, he's was in architecture and still is, right? For
Still doing it part time.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, does it part time, done it for years,
Right.
and that's why his background and his way of seeing things is different. So it brings a new look to the table with how he can visualize these things in ways that people like me can't. I need, that's why the cartoons were so easy at brainwashing, because most of us can watch cartoons and go, oh, I get that, and so he's got it in a real mathematical form. I think that's so cool.
Right. So I think you need to go to the presentation number 2.
Okay. Let's see.
You have it on there.
Oops.
Is
it a video?
Slide 2 or something like that? Thought we changed the name of it.
Oh, okay. Slide 1. Is it that one?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. So now we're going to specifically get into what's going on for the duration of the new moon between April 8th and April 9th. So what I did, I dug into the observatory data to pull this information out for the sun and the moon. And this is when it's going to be, the whole duration is where it's supposed to be 0 light, where we're told that when that happens, the moon is exactly between the Earth and the sun. Okay. So we're going to dig into this. So again, here's the data that I pulled, and it turns out, I did it by an hour at a time. and I found out it basically, when you look at the first, it's a gray row that's highlighted, that this is like the minute that it still has some light, then the next minute it doesn't. So, I found that UTC time 0432, that this latitude and longitude of the sun and the latitude and longitude of the moon had 1% illumination. And the next minute after that basically was the start of the 0% illumination. So that's what I started with. I used that, started at time 0433 for UTC time, and started pulling all the data of where the sun and moon was going to be going, and did it for each hour increment. So you've got go 0 to hour 1 to hour 2734, which goes from April 9th, April 8th to April 9th. And then we have the next minute plus 0101, it starts to get 1% illumination again. Okay. And again, this all comes from the U.S. Naval Observatory. And I think that's good for that. We're going to show the sequence now. Do we have that one loaded up?
video
We do.
three.
Video 3.
I think I started playing it because
Right.
we were on
Yeah.
presentation 2,
Yeah.
and then I skipped to video 3.
So this is going to show the sun and moon pretty small. It's going to start. Let me go back just to let you know. Yeah, it's going to be at longitude 112. Longitude 112. So I believe it starts up on the top part of the circular level map, and you'll see the sun, and the moon's going to be dashed, because it's going to be dashed the whole time since there's no light coming from it. Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Sequence of sun and moon locations during a new moon, April 8th, 2024 to April 9th, 2024. April 8th, 2024, 0433 UTC, hour 0. April 8th, 2024, 0533 UTC, hour 1. April 8th, 2024, 0633 UTC, hour 2. April 8th, 2024, 0733 UTC, hour 3. April 8th, 2024, 0833 UTC, hour 4. April 8, 2024, 0933 UTC, hour 5. April 8, 2024, 1033 UTC, hour 6. April 8, 2024, 1133 UTC, hour 7. April 8, 2024, 1233 UTC, hour 8. April 8th, 2024, 1333 UTC, hour 9. April 8th, 2024, 1433 UTC, hour 10. April 8th, 2024, 1533 UTC, hour 11. April 8th, 2024, 1633 UTC, hour 12. April 8th, 2024, 1733 UTC, hour 13. April 8th, 2024, 1833 UTC, hour 14. April 8th, 2024, 1933 UTC, hour 15. April 8th, 2024, 2033 UTC, hour 16. April 8th, 2024, 2133 UTC, hour 17. April 8th, 2024, 2233 UTC, hour 18. April 8th, 2024, 2333 UTC, hour 19. April 9th, 2024, 033 UTC, hour 20. April 9th, 2024, 0133 UTC, hour 21. April 9th, 2024, 0233 UTC, hour 22. April 9th, 2024, 0333 UTC, hour 23. April 9th, 2024, 0433 UTC, hour 24. April 9th, 2024, 0533 UTC, hour 25. April 9th, 2024, 0633 UTC, hour 26. April 9th, 2024, 0733 UTC, hour 27. April 9th, 2024, 0807 UTC, hour 27:34. Next, we will run a quick sequence of the sun and moon locations during a new moon from April 8th, 2024 to April 9th, 2024. To the presentation.
Is that it?
Yep, that's it. So,
All right. So we're going to walk through each one of these hour times now to really look and see if the sun and moon are in alignment. And we'll see for the most part they're not, except for so many hours, about 5 or 6 hours, where of course that's where the whole partial eclipses occur and the total. So we can see here, this is a snapshot for hour 00, that they're not in alignment. They are separate in terms of longitude, time. They're separate. The moon is ahead of the sun. Hour 1, again, the moon is ahead of the sun. 2, same. 3, the same. 4, they're not total in alignment. The sun is catching up because it's faster than the moon. They're still not in total alignment. Or hour 8, 9, getting closer, but if you zoomed in on that, they're not still aligned to cause a perfect alignment that's required. So now what I'm doing now is I highlighted and zoomed in here on the side. You can see that sun and moon are close to alignment. So we'll say, okay, they're getting close, really close. And now the next hour, hour 13, they're getting very close. Now, hour 14, this is 1833 UTC, which is the start of what we would see certain places experiencing partial or total eclipse. So we'll agree that they're in alignment right there, okay? As the sun's starting to cross over past the moon. Then the next hour, we can see the sun's actually now a little bit out of the circle of the moon, so we'll say that's close to alignment. And then you can see it's moving farther out, hour 16. Now they're pretty much, you can say they're not in alignment. 17, and you'll see the sun move even more forward. 18, hour 19, 20, 21. Now they're definitely totally apart from each other. So, when you look at this in a 27-hour, 34-minute time span, which is a new moon because it's got 0% illumination, there aren't that many hours in that cycle that they're truly aligned up. Okay. So we're going to take a look at some comparisons here between the sun and the moon, the latitude, location / comparisons. So on April 8th, this is hour 00, UTC time 0433, the start of it. Latitude of the sun is 7.4 and the moon is 3.89. At the end of it, 27 hours and 34 minutes later at 0807, April 9th, the sun is at 7.8 degrees latitude because it's just moving slowly north. It's the clock for the Earth. And the moon is at 11.85. So the total latitude degrees traveled was 0.4 for the sun. And for the moon, it's 7.96. And we can convert those. People need to realize that on the Gleason's map, you'll see there's a note. It's got a ruler on it that says that 1 degree of latitude equals 69.046 miles, actual miles. And so we can take those latitude degrees and multiply it by 69, and then we come up with total miles traveled. 27.62 miles for the sun, 549.61 for the moon. So even in that 1 hour, a little over 1 hour time span, we see the moon is moving because it's got to move closer to the sun to get its 0% illumination where they're doing their reaction with electromagnetism. And this is kind of shows that comparison where here we go with hour 0, 0, there's the sun, and here's the moon. The moon now is closer to the equator than the sun. But then we look at the end of the 27 hour 34, now it's past the sun because it's got to get in front of it. So it traveled more latitude degrees. Then we'll look at the longitude comparisons, which is time. Okay, so he's again started to hour 00 UTC time 0433. The sun's longitude is 112.2 degrees, and the moon's is 104.9. So when you look at these latitude locations, the sun is 7.3 longitude degrees east of the moon. Okay, it's behind the moon by 7.30 longitude degrees. Then at the end of the cycle, we're at hour time 2734, UTC time 0807. The sun is at 58.60 longitude, and the moon is at 65.75. The sun is 7.15 longitude degrees west of the moon, which means when you look at the summary of this, the sun traveled 14.45 longitude degrees more than the moon. The moon lagged behind the sun 58 minutes. So you would get back to that average of 52 minutes per day of the moon lagging behind the sun. And of course, we're at 3 hours and 34 minutes past the 1 day, 24 hours. So that's why it's a little bit more time in minutes. But these things are lining up, which make perfect sense. And so this note down here says the sun circles clockwise east to west above the circular level plane, Earth 15 degrees of longitude per hour. Because we mentioned before that if each 15 degrees of longitude is an hour, 15 times 24 hours is 360 degrees of a longitude, which is a circle. The circle has 360 degrees in it. And then we're going to compare again, that we see here the time. So the moon is ahead of the sun, and you could see with this is each of these spokes is 15 degrees of longitude. Okay, 1 hour between these spoke lines going around. And here I show it here, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, going clockwise all the way to 24. Okay, time zones, right? So we can practically see that the sun is almost in the middle of the spokes or the timelines here for each hour, which is 7.5, half of 15 degrees. And then when we look at the 27 hours and 34 minutes at the end, now we see that the moon is pretty much, 7.5 degrees longitude less. So we can see it. The sun's behind. At the end, the sun's ahead. So these are things that people won't really realize because they're not thinking about it. But when you look at the circular level plane that Yahweh created and all of this, the whole geometric longitudes, degrees for the time, the latitudes for distance, it just works out beautifully. So now this table, which we had before in the front, I've color coded it to kind of, because when we walked through each hour, we said that's not in alignment, close to alignment, and then was in alignment. So all the ones that are in the orange, basically not in alignment. But now when we get down to the 12th hour, and you have to look at the UTC times, because that coordinates is what NASA and all of them were talking about for time for the eclipses. So these are starting with the yellow at time 1633 and 1733. That means the moon's getting close to get in front of the sun. So they're close to alignment. And you can see this through the longitude. The longitude, which are the timelines, show you that they're getting close. Okay. If you look at the columns for the longitude of the sun and the longitude of the moon, they're getting very close. So then we go to hour 1833 is where we had that one time where it was they were in alignment. Okay. And you can see again, look at the longitude, very, very close. I think right there, the moon is still like maybe a minute time-wise ahead. It's not very much because we mentioned that before. Then once we get past 1833, 1933, and 2033, they're close to alignment. But this between 1633 and 2033, that's where all the excitement comes, for the world to see the eclipse, the solar, I call it a solar event. And then after that, when we go to time 2133, we're no longer in alignment, and the sun's gone forward. So it's interesting. A lot of people kind of brought this up. James Reynolds, way back in 1817 and 76, he started coming out with some pretty cool depictions and explanations of how the celestial bodies work. But people got to realize this guy was basically a heliocentric model person. Okay. So I just wanted to show this because he had some pretty cool ones about he had one about the phases of the moon, which is interesting, but it still is the same graphic that we see or explanation today from NASA in mainstream science, where you got the sun here, it's in the middle here. Sun, the moon, half the moon is lit up because only half the moon's gonna be lit up if it's facing the sun and it's a spherical mass. And on the other side of it, it's hidden. They still showed a mass, but when you go on the Earth, that side of the Earth is lit because they have to do that for a spherical mass too. But hey, where's the shadow of the moon? There should be a shadow right in the center point of the Earth, and they're not showing it. So they're showing a depiction which has a huge lie in it, that most people don't pick up. And here's what this came off of timeanddate.com. Same thing. It's the same thing that the previous chart showed. And here's their explanation. New moon, invisible phase. The new moon is when the sun and moon are aligned with the sun and Earth on opposite sides of the moon. Okay, so we see it here. But during that duration, we didn't see it much at all, except for sure 1 hour and maybe 5, where we could say, well, they were kind of lined up. But so the driving point is that that's not a true statement for the full cycle of the new moon. It only occurs for a few hours within the data. And I just blew this one up again to see a little bit better, where the sun, same thing that NASA just showed and all the current science folks show. But hey, the Earth is it should have a shadow here, with the moon blocking the sun's rays, which are parallel. And so what I did here was to show the deception of NASA and mainstream science, what they say about the new moon. The moon's spherical mass, according to what they say, the diameter is 2,160 miles. And the moon side facing the sun is lit by the sun's parallel rays. The moon side facing the Earth is blocking the sun's parallel rays and should cast a 2,160 mile diameter total eclipse, quote, on the Earth. But however, number 4, the Earth is fully lit, where the 2,160 mile diameter total eclipse should be seen on the Earth. This graphic of the new moon shows one truth: the moon is not casting a total eclipse on the Earth. The moon is invisible during the new moon, and it is impossible for the moon to block the sun and the sun's rays, because basically they're saying there's no shadow here, so the moon's invisible in a way. That's what they're saying. But the new moon that they show has lies, that it's a solid mass with that diameter causing a total solar eclipse. If people just don't see this, and I think people will say, oh, well, then the light curves around it. It's like, well, wait a minute, you're telling us the sun's rays are always parallel, right? So they can't have it both ways. And again, I put the same information here saying the same thing of what they did, and we don't need to go over, but it's the same explanation of the one truth they have, that the sun is invisible. I mean, the moon is invisible, but the other lies is that, it's causing an eclipse. So basically, this is what I'm showing here. If the moon was a spherical mass, this graphic should depict a 2,160 mile diameter total eclipse on the Earth during all 12 new moons in a year. So what I did is I put the shadow, black shadow it would be the eclipse on the Earth. It would be a huge eclipse, every new moon. 12 new moons in the year, but we don't see that. It only happens twice a year. So
Wow.
I did the same thing for this depiction. You know, you just got to correct them and, you know, kind of show them, you know, you got to think logically. You know, don't just go, oh, well, think about it with, you know, we're supposed to seek for truth. So this is something that would be something worth to think about. So I've done some tests. We're starting to see some tests now. I got to load this up, but I did a new moon shadow test with in my garage. Let me try to pull that up. I'm kind of limited with some of the slides and files coming on here just because I'm not signed up to do it myself.
That's cool. I like the animations. I hope you guys like that. With the solar or the lunar eclipse happening 12 times or once with every cycle. So is that 12? You say 12 times a year?
It's 12 times a year. Sometimes it might be the 13th because it depends on, you know, where it lands in the month. And, you know, sometimes there's a 13th cycle in a year.
Yeah, got to add the shadow on their Helios-centered model to show how bogus it is. That's pretty cool.
So that video just popped on you. It's got my name on it. So that's it.
All right. You ready for it?
Yeah.
All right. Let's go. Oops. What did I do? There it is. Oop. I have it.
Test representing a new moon when a, quote, 2,160 mile spherical moon mass, unquote, is directly aligned between the Sun and the Earth, as stated by NASA and mainstream science. NASA and mainstream science states, a new moon occurs when the Sun and Moon are aligned with the Sun and Earth on opposite sides of the Moon, as shown in this graphic. NASA and mainstream science states the Moon is a spherical mass, 2,160 miles in diameter. In this graphic, we observe the Moon is perfectly aligned between the Sun and Earth, and the Sun's parallel light rays light up the side or surface of the Moon facing the Sun. However, the graphic also shows the Sun's parallel light rays lighting up the entire side or surface of the Earth facing the Sun. If the Moon is a 2,160 mile spherical mass, and the Moon is perfectly aligned between the Sun and the Earth, then during a new moon, the Moon should cast a 2,160 mile diameter full shadow or, quote, eclipse on the Earth. This 2,160 mile diameter full shadow or, quote, eclipse should be shown on the graphic. Also, the 2,160 mile diameter full shadow or eclipse should be experienced and observed on Earth during every new moon, but we never do. This video presentation will address this concern by performing a test. The test will be set up to represent the same alignment of the Sun, Moon, and Earth during a new moon, as described by NASA and mainstream science. First, the size of the Moon and Earth need to be to scale with each other. The 2.4-inch diameter foam ball represents a 2,160 mile spherical moon mass, which is to scale with the Earth's map. This shows again the 2.4-inch diameter foam ball represents a 2,160 mile spherical moon mass, which is to scale with the Earth's map. Here is the setup of the test in my garage. A 5,000 lumen flashlight representing the Sun is hanging from the ceiling. The 2.4-inch diameter foam ball representing a, quote, 2,160 mile spherical moon mass is hanging from a clear fish line. The Earth map is on the garage floor directly below the 2.4-inch diameter foam ball, which represents a, quote, 2,160 mile spherical moon mass, and we notice a moon shadow is seen. Again, the 2.4-inch diameter foam ball representing a 2,160 mile spherical moon mass is to scale with the Earth map. Next, we will watch a video taken with my iPhone to determine what we observe. We see the flashlight on the ceiling representing the Sun. We observe the side of the 2.4-inch diameter foam ball facing the flashlight is fully lit. Most importantly, we observe the 2.4-inch diameter foam ball is fully blocking the light from reaching the Earth. A full shadow or, quote, eclipse of 2.4 inches in diameter is on the Earth, which represents a 2,160-mile diameter of full shadow or quote eclipse. Based on the observations of this test, NASA's and mainstream science's graphic depiction of a new moon is a lie. If the moon is a 2,160-mile diameter spherical mass, then the Earth should experience a 2,160-mile diameter of full shadow or quote eclipse every new moon for a duration of at least 24 hours, but we never do. New moons occur on average 12 times a year, yet quote solar eclipses only occur on average 2 times a year. We have proven by Almighty Yahweh's scriptures and repeatable observations of the moon's lunar cycle, the moon is a light/luminaire, which during a new moon has no light, is invisible, and cannot physically block the sun or the sun's light.
There we go.
Oh, we go back to the presentation.
Oh, back to the presentation.
Slide. Yeah,
Here it is.
you're right. Yeah, so here's the example. This is a test, simple test. You know, a lot. So I've seen some other videos where they'll say that sometimes the moon is moving around, but that doesn't show with the data that I see on the navigational data. Oh, what happened? Oh.
I'm trying to get us back to where we were.
Oh.
Haven't done this in so long.
Okay.
I'm messing it up. Big.
Right. So here's a summary again of what the video shows, that we should be observing this or experiencing this every new moon that occurs in a year, but we don't. So this is a huge lie. So I'm going to talk about the lunar cycles in 2024. I've got these color coded. So the two main ones that we're going to have this year is April 8th and October 2nd. Whereas we see all the other ones, they don't have any eclipses. And what I did here too is just totaled up. You have 6 lunar cycles that are 29 days and 6 that are 30, and it adds to 354 days, which is what we know in Yahweh's scriptures. So bottom line, there are no total solar eclipses for 10 of the 12 new moons, and there are 2 solar eclipses on 2 of the 12 new moons, but the duration of the solar event is only a few hours, and the width of the eclipse is 120 miles roughly. So obviously something else is causing this. It's not the moon. Observations and conclusions of the new moon being at 0% illumination, April 8th to April 9th, 2024. During the 27-hour and 34-minute new moon period of 0% illumination, the sun and moon are aligned above the earth for only 1 hour, hour 14. Since the sun and moon are not aligned for 26 hours and 34 minutes of the new moon phase, and if the moon is a 2,160-mile diameter spherical mass, then the moon should be visible during these hours. However, the moon is never visible during the new moon phase. Conclusions. We're going to keep hammering this down. The moon is a light/luminaire disk, which during a new moon phase has no light and is invisible because the sun and moon are closer to each other in latitude and longitude. 1 Enoch 41:7. And after this is the hidden and visible path of the moon, and it travels the course of its journey. In that place, by day and by night, one stands opposite the other in front of the Lord of the spirits, and they give thanks and sing praise and do not rest, because their thanksgiving is like rest to them. So the moon's path, as described in 1 Enoch 41:7, is hidden and visible, always hidden during a new moon phase, and always visible during all other moon phases at various levels of illumination. During solar eclipses, a black orb phenomenon is moving in front of the sun, posing as the moon. That's the conclusion. The only other way we can figure this out. So now I'm going to play. I took pictures every 5 minutes of the solar event on April 8th here where I live in Myrtle Beach. So let me load that up now. I don't think I don't have it in there yet.
Okay.
Maybe I can do it.
While he's doing that, good to see some of you here. Got David Beverly, straight out of NASA. Jesus Freak, Computer Geek. Oh, is it up already?
Yeah,
Oh, that was
so-
fast.
so-
He's getting fast. Okay, he's already waiting on me.
So it's, yeah.
All right, so this is the moon phases. This is from your camera?
Yeah, this is a presentation using my Nikon camera. Is that it? Okay, let's see.
April 8th, 2024, solar event, Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. On April 8th, 2024, a solar event commonly known as a quote partial solar eclipse occurred at Myrtle Beach, South Carolina between time 13:48, which is 1:48 p.m., and time 16:28, which is 4:28 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Pictures of the solar event were taken with a Nikon P1000 camera at approximately 5-minute intervals. The Nikon P1000 camera was mounted on a stationary tripod throughout the solar event. Next, we will observe the sequence of the pictures taken throughout the solar event. At time 14:32, we will observe an anomaly where the black orb suddenly rotates quickly to the left as if it's being maneuvered. Also, at time 15:56, we will observe another anomaly where the black orb slides quickly to the right as if it is being maneuvered as well. At time 14:32, we will see the first anomaly. At time 15:56, we will observe the second anomaly. Now we will go back to time 14:19 to more closely observe the first black orb anomaly at time 14:32. The black orb suddenly and quickly rotates to the left as if it's being maneuvered. Now we will go to time 15:41 to more closely observe the second black orb anomaly at time 15:56. At time 15:56, we observe the black orb sliding quickly to the right as if being maneuvered. Next, we will observe the sequence of the solar event in fast time, which will clearly show the anomaly movements of the black orb at times 14:32 and 15:56.
Wow,
So neat.
that was cool. You guys saw the moon maneuvering the black orb, not the moon. I think it was moving. That was cool.
Yeah, especially when it's in a faster sequence, you can definitely see it. It's like that would not be a normal sequence. It should stay on track, you know. So,
Let me pull back up. Let's see. Is it this one?
no, that's the same.
Okay.
Yeah, you want to go back to the presentation. Where did it go?
Seeing that one.
Slide 49, duration of the new moon. It's number 2. It should be the only slide on there. Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
So let me go back. Yep. Okay. So now we're going to talk about the solar eclipse locations in the United States that were pretty prominent. It goes from 1 to 11. It shows the location, state, city and state, their latitude and longitude, and then their maximum eclipse and what UTC time is. And now look, we were talking about 1833 through, there's like about 1 hour where all this stuff was happening when it was lined up. It was pretty close to the 1 hour of air. All these cities saw that in that 1 hour duration that we saw where it was literally lined up. And then you see with the sun and moon, the altitude and azimuth angles for all 11 of those cities are perfectly lined up for each one. So obviously the data is showing that they're lined up. Now, since the moon is invisible, they could play with the data anytime they wanted to at that time. But they have to do that to cause it to look like it's geometrically perfectly aligned up so that they can say that the moon was going in front of the sun. So that's we're going to continue to really push on this. And here, what I said was this, I highlighted in green, and this was a table we did previously where I said, where they were in alignment was at 1833. And say we start here at 1837 in Austin, Texas, and we're done in 1928. So that's where it occurred. They could make it happen to make it look like it was truly lined up, if the moon is a mass. And here's also a depiction of how they showed it, the eclipse going across. So you see where it starts in Austin, Texas, and the UTC time is aligned up with it. So that's how it happened within that 1 hour, the maximum eclipse right there. So we're going to go in a little bit more detail because when I showed the sequence of the duration of the new moon for the 27 hour and 34 minutes, you probably didn't see it, but it had these dots on there and those are the dots of all the cities. So if you overlaid the map, I like using AutoCAD because it's perfectly, everything is a perfect dimension. Literally the longitude line going across, all the way across the diameter, that's 24,856 miles. And take that 24,856 miles and turn it into a circle. That's now the circumference of the circular level of the globe, Earth. And you make that, figure out the diameter. Oh, it's 7,912 miles in diameter. Huh. Only geometry could do that. That's how they lied about it. They took this circular level plane Earth and just made it a sphere, or made these longitude lines go from North Pole to South Pole, which is a circumference of 25,856 miles. It's just simple geometry how they lied to us. And when you look at the surface area differences of this circular level plane Earth that Yahweh created, it's got 59% more square miles than the globe Earth. So just a little information there. So we're going to start digging into this. Right, you can see where the sun and moon are there at 1833 UTC. Well, actually, you see the sun because the moon is invisible. And so I kind of blew it up here where these are they got the numbers for each of the cities where this was occurring. And so this was, quote, the stated path by NASA and mainstream science. It was roughly 120-mile width path in the United States. Okay, so now what I've done is I've taken those points and tried to create, with a 120-mile width on the actual AutoCAD circle level plane Earth that I have in the file. Then, since we know if the moon was a 2,160 miles mass, sphere mass, this would be the eclipse path, right? So we don't see that. We don't see this. It's right, obvious. So just a kind of oh, okay. Then we go to the next hour over, which is 1933. And then we can still see that, that's why some more of it happened probably toward the end, going to 1933 time, where it occurred to other cities. I did the same thing. There's a 1933. You can see the moon there is right, perfectly lined up, still pretty close. And we've got the different cities. Gives you a better idea when you look at on the circular level plane Earth. Did the same thing with a 120-mile path. And then overlaid on top of that, where if it was a true mass, that's what people should have seen. More the United States should have been in full eclipse. So now I played this before, but I think it's worth doing again because we know that what's occurring is not the moon. So this goes along with Sean Griffin's silent kind of explanations of what's really occurring. There's something else, and it's pretty much it's the Prince of the Air. He's the one that's showing himself during solar eclipses through some type of orb structure, and the way he can do that, he's trying to mimic the cone of perspective that we would see with the moon being geometrically in front of the sun, and it's called the cone of perspective. Okay, so we're going to play the next video. It's called it's all about the cone of perspective. I got to pull that up too. Can I bring that one up too? Okay, here it is. Let's see if it's going to let me do it. Oh, it did. So you'll see did you see it?
Oh, there it is.
Is that it?
Right there. Is that
Okay, let's see. Is that it?
Oh, and
Yes.
welcome to Geotruth. This presentation addresses how Satan's black orb, Command and Control Center, poses as the moon during, quote, solar eclipses by using the same cone of perspective as the sun. Cone of perspective, how an object appears the same size at different distances. A cone of perspective is a visual perspective from an observation point where an object appears to be the same size regardless of how far away the object is from the observation point. This geometrically only occurs when the object's distance in miles and diameter in miles is the same ratio, which is distance divided by diameter equals ratio number. The cone of perspective diagram shown depicts this geometric law. All three objects shown in the cone of perspective appear to be the same size from the observation point, despite the fact that all three objects geometrically have different diameters and are different distances from the observation point. This occurs because all three objects have the same distance to diameter ratio of 10. Using the same distance to diameter ratio of 10, an object a million miles away from the observation point will have a diameter of 100,000 miles and will appear the same size as the other three objects in the cone of perspective. Any object with the same distance to diameter ratio within the cone of perspective will appear to be the same size. NASA, mainstream science, and Satan use this cone of perspective geometric law to deceive the world concerning the sun's and moon's distances from the earth and their diameters. Cone of perspective for the sun and moon. The upper table shows the distance from earth and diameter of the sun and moon respectively, which NASA and mainstream science state. The distance to diameter ratio for the sun is 106.9 and is 110.58 for the moon. The lower table shows the distance from Earth of the Sun and Moon, respectively, using the United States Naval Observatory navigational data and double triangulation. The Sun's distance from the Earth is 3,107 miles, and the Moon's distance from the Earth is 3,062 miles. Using the same distance to diameter ratio, 106.9 for the Sun, the diameter of the Sun is 29 or 30 miles. Using the same distance to diameter ratio of 110.58 for the Moon, the diameter of the Moon is 28 miles. The Sun and Moon are the same sizes, with the Moon being 45 miles below the Sun. First Enoch tells us the Sun and Moon are the same size. Satan's Black Orb Command and Control Center uses the same cone of perspective as the Sun to pose as the Moon during, quote, solar eclipses, unquote. The distance to diameter ratio equals 106.9. Elevation of the first firmament/heaven above Earth. The Kármán line. The Kármán line was established in the 1960s by the Fédération Aéronautique Internationale and has been used by members, countries, and organizations affiliated with the FAI as one definition of space. The Kármán line is a, quote, invisible boundary, unquote, around 62 miles above sea level, where the Earth's sky ends and space begins. However, the second law of thermodynamics states gases at different pressures will always combine to an equilibrium pressure. Earth's air primarily consists of two gases, which are 78% nitrogen and 20.9% oxygen at sea level. The air pressure at sea level is 14.7 psi, pounds per square inch, which is the perfect location for the human body to live due to the highest concentration of 20.9% oxygen in the air. With no boundary between the Earth's sky and space, the 0 psi, 0% oxygen vacuum of the quote, infinite volume of space, unquote, will combine with the 14.7 psi, 20.9% oxygen of the very limited volume of Earth's air to the equilibrium pressure of 0 psi, 0% oxygen, vacuum of, quote, space, unquote, and there will be no life on Earth. Therefore, the second law of thermodynamics requires a boundary above the Earth which maintains the Earth's air pressure of 14.7 psi at sea level. This boundary is the first firmament/heaven above Earth and is approximately between 60 to 100 miles above sea level. The biblical creation model. First firmament/heaven is above Earth. The first firmament/heaven above Earth is approximately 60 to 100 miles above sea level with waters above. Genesis 1:7-8. Thus God made the firmament and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament. And it was so. And God called the firmament heaven. Jubilees 2:4. And on the second day he created the firmament in the midst of the waters, and the waters were divided on that day. Half of them went up above, and half of them went down below, the firmament that was in the midst over the face of the whole earth. And this was the only work God created on the second day. The biblical creation model. Paradise, Mother Jerusalem, New Jerusalem, is located in the third firmament/heaven. Paradise, Mother Jerusalem, and New Jerusalem are one and the same. 2 Corinthians 12:2-4. I know a man in Christ, who 14 years ago was caught up to the third heaven. Whether it was in the body or out of it, I do not know, but God knows. And I know that this man, whether in the body or out of it, I do not know, but God knows, was caught up to paradise. John 14:1-2. Yeshua is speaking to his disciples. In my Father's house are many dwelling places. If it were not so, I would have told you, for I go to prepare a place for you. Revelation 21:2. I saw the holy city, the New Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. Who is Yeshua? The biblical creation model. The sun and moon are located in the second firmament/heaven. Revelation 12:1. A great sign appeared in the heaven, a woman clothed in the sun, with the moon under her feet, and a crown of 12 stars on her head. Revelation 12:1 states the woman is the New Jerusalem, with the sun and moon under her feet. The sun and moon are located in the second firmament/heaven. Based on the United States Naval Observatory navigational data and geometric double triangulation, the sun is 3,107 miles above sea level, and the moon is 3,062 miles above sea level. Next, we'll use AutoCAD to show geometrically how Satan's black orb command and control center uses the same cone of perspective as the sun to pose as the moon during, quote, solar eclipses, unquote. This is the overall view of the sun's cone of perspective with its distance to diameter ratio of 106.9. The first firmament above the earth is shown at 100 miles above sea level. The sun is in the second firmament and is 3,107 miles above sea level and is 29 or 30 miles in diameter. The distance to diameter equals 106.9. Since it is impossible for the inhabitants of Earth to go through the first firmament/heaven, the distance from Earth to the second firmament/heaven is not known. Therefore, the line showing the second firmament/heaven is representative to indicate the sun is in the second firmament/heaven. Next, we will zoom in on Satan's black orb command and control center, showing that by using the same distance to diameter ratio of 106.9, the orb is in the sun's cone of perspective. This geometrically causes the orb to appear as the same size as the sun, posing as the moon, able to move in front of the sun, blocking the sun and the sun's rays. The orb is 90 miles above sea level, just below the first firmament/heaven, and is 0.84 miles in diameter. will now zoom out and follow the cone of perspective to the sun's location. We observe Satan's black orb is perfectly geometrically aligned with the sun's cone of perspective to pose as the moon during, quote, solar eclipses, unquote. Satan's black orb command and control center posing as the moon. Satan's extremely advanced technological spherical command and control center structure is where he oversees dominion and authority over the kingdoms of the earth with the following capabilities. Navigate and levitate at high elevations but below the earth's dome firmament. The firmament is approximately 100 miles above sea level. Cloaking capability to become hidden when required. Advanced weapons capability like direct energy weapons, and the structure is approximately 0.84 miles in diameter to have the cone of perspective capability to block the sun and pose as the moon. During a new solar eclipses, unquote, always occur, the moon is closest to the sun, has no light, and is invisible, therefore it's impossible for the moon to block the sun or the sun rays. Satan himself reveals to the world by blocking the sun with his black orb command and control center, posing as the moon during, quote, solar eclipses, unquote. Thank you for watching this presentation, and we hope .86 distance to diameter ratio cone of perspective test. This 54.86 distance to diameter ratio cone of perspective diagram was set up to test if a 0.8 inch diameter black foam orb posing as the moon can fully block the light emanating from a 1.75 inch diameter 5,000 lumen flashlight representing the sun. The flashlight and black foam orb was installed in my garage as shown on the diagram. Here is the setup in my garage. The left picture is the view behind the flashlight representing the sun. We see the flashlight is on. The black foam orb posing as a moon is hanging from a clear fish line, and a, quote, eclipse or shadow can be seen on the garage floor. The right picture is the view behind the black foam orb posing as the moon. We see the flashlight is on. The black foam orb posing as the moon is hanging from a clear fish line, and a, quote, eclipse or shadow can be seen on the garage floor. Next, we will observe in a video what occurs. This video was taken with an iPhone and is in slow motion. We can see the, quote, eclipse or shadow from the black foam orb blocking the light from the flashlight. We also see the black foam orb hanging from a fish line and the bright light emanating from the flashlight. Since the black foam orb posing as the moon and the flashlight representing the sun have the same distance to diameter ratio in the cone of perspective, the black foam orb should fully block the light emanating from the flashlight. This would verify how, quote, solar eclipses occur when we know the moon has no light and is invisible during a new moon. A, quote, solar eclipse occurs because a black orb with the same distance diameter ratio as the sun is physically in front of the sun, blocking the sun and the sun's light. which we are seeing right now. The black foam orb is blocking the light from the flashlight because the black foam orb is perfectly aligned with the flashlight in the cone of perspective. Since the cone of perspective in this test is very small, it is hard to keep the phone's camera within the cone of perspective. It is important to continue to observe this test because it explains the truth of how, quote, solar eclipses occur. We have proven by Almighty Yahweh's scriptures and repeatable observations of the moon's lunar cycle that the moon is a light/luminaire, which during a new moon has no light, is invisible, and cannot physically block the sun or the sun's light. The conclusion of this test proves that, quote, solar eclipses occur by a black orb with the same distance to diameter ratio as the sun, moving physically in front of the sun, blocking the sun and the sun's light.
Yeah, Sean. Okay, so we got to go back to the.
Not muted this time. That was cool. Sorry about the muted aspect there.
Yeah, so that I was happy to see that occur. I knew it would because it's all geometric, and you can do that with. You can actually do that yourself by if you took a circle, a certain diameter circle, went so far away from it, and just use the calculation of distance to diameter for a bigger circle. And then if you put a line between those circles to a perspective point, you're going to get that cone of perspective, even on a piece of paper. It's geometrically there all the time. So a lot of people are being deceived. Last one. Oh, okay. I need to put another one in.
That was really cool. It was like you're watching a real eclipse. Hope you guys enjoyed that little demonstration, seeing totality. I could almost hear the crowd cheering in the background, oh, it's totality.
Yeah, right.
That was cool.
So get to videos.
He's uploading the next presentation. This man, I thought I had a lot of slides and presentations, and he's got AutoCAD going. experiments in the garage, mini slides,
Right.
math that I don't understand. It's pretty cool.
I loaded it. I
Oh, you
loaded
got
up
it?
the next
Okay.
presentation. Yeah.
There, I think that's it. Is that it?
Yes. Right. So we're going to jump now into the laws and principles of light emanating versus reflected.
Uh-oh.
And I thought this would be a good way to really drive home the fact that the moon has emanating light, not reflective light. So we're going to walk through this. And there's another test on this as well. Light sources. A light source is a natural or man-made object that emits one or more wavelengths of light. So there are various light sources. The sun is the most abundant natural light source in the form of visible light, ultraviolet light, and infrared radiation. Stars, we see those at night, visible lights on clear evenings. Atmospheric phenomena, lightning, auroras, or air glow. Bioluminescence, which would be fireflies, deep sea creatures, and fungi emitting light through chemical reactions. Notice that the moon is not identified by NASA in mainstream science as a natural light source, but rather a solid spherical mass which appears to reflect the sun's light between 0% illumination to 100% illumination during a full lunar cycle averaging 29.5 days. So let's talk a little about reflective light on a flat reflective surface. So we're already talking about a flat reflective surface, reflected light on a flat reflective surface, not one that curves. Light is known to behave in a very particular manner when it reflects off of a flat reflective surface. If a ray of light could be observed approaching and reflecting off a flat reflective surface, then the behavior of the light as it reflects would follow a predictable law known as the law of reflection. So we have a flat reflective surface here. We have basically it's like a center line point. We have an incident ray coming in and then a reflective ray reflecting off of it. So the I is the incident ray of the sunlight and R is a reflected ray. At the point of incidence where the ray strikes the reflective surface, a line is drawn perpendicular to the reflective surface. This line is known as normal line N. The line N divides the angle between the incident ray and the reflective ray into the two equal angles, where the incident angle OI equals OR. And we can see that the incident ray comes in, reflects at the same angle going out. But obviously, depending on that reflective surface, how reflected it is, it depends on how much of that light's going to reflect off. Okay. So reflected light from the sun are on a flat reflective surface. Sun's perpendicular incident light rays reflect perpendicular reflective light rays. If we have a flat reflective surface, then the incident rays in the sun are going to hit and go straight back. Okay. So I kind of showed this in a continuous incident and reflective rays. And same things going on here. And right now, I'm going to explain that at the point of incident where the ray strikes a reflective surface, the line is drawn perpendicular to the reflective surface. The intensity of R, or the reflected ray, is dependent on the surface color and surface texture. The darker surface color, the lesser the reflected ray intensity. The rougher the surface texture, the lesser the ray intensity. Those are two common characteristics that will determine, how much it's going to reflect. So I found this light reflectance value chart, and I'm going to use it throughout this presentation. Light reflectance value, LRV, is a percentage of light that is reflected by any color. So obviously, if it's a white surface, you get 100% LRV. When you go all the way to a black surface, then it's zero. It's going to absorb the light. It pretty much makes sense. So now we're going to talk about sun incident rays and reflected rays on a spherical surface, because it's a big, big difference. The sun's parallel incident rays reflect off of the tangent line of the sphere, where the incident ray and reflected ray having the same angle from the tangent line. So we'll kind of go up top here. Let me go up top where we're at the top of the circle, let's say. And you can see at the right above that, it shows the ray basically coming in from the left, and it's hitting the edge of the circle, but it doesn't actually, it just kind of kisses it or passes by. So there's no reflective light at the edge of the circle, which would be the edge of the sphere where the parallel rays are hitting. And now if you go over to the left, we're going to look at the lower reflected rays. So now we've got sun's incident ray. You can see it here. It's going side from left to right, but it's hitting the tangent line of the circle sphere. And look what's reflecting up, because when you put the normal line, perpendicular line on the tangent line, it's not going to bounce back where the incident ray was. It's going to go 90 degrees off. So it's not even going to come back to where somebody would be seeing it with their eye, right? Now the highest reflected rays will be straight on, because the tangent line on the spherical surface, which is going to be the moon, it would bounce right back. So here we have it. The sun's parallel incident rays are coming in, and we have basically a straight line for it to bounce back. Because of the sphere right there, the tangent line is basically a straight line, perpendicular to the incident ray, so it reflects back on the same line. And then the same thing that we saw with the one above, when you go back down on the circle, we do the same thing where the sun's incident rays are coming down. Now it's going to reflect down. So this is the characteristics of what would happen on a circle or a curved line, and not a flat line, straight flat line, which is what the moon is. This shows more detail of it. So if you see on the left here, it says sun's parallel light rays, and it's all straight lines. And again, where it's coming right in the center of the curved circle there, or the horizontal line, it's reflecting straight back. But as we go up or down along the circle, you can see that the reflected rays keep getting farther away from where you would be observing the rays. Okay, so it's less and less reflectance going on. As a matter of fact, you get to a point where right around, I'm saying maybe 10 o'clock, a lot of those rays don't even come back because they're reflecting away from the observing area here. So this is a very key nature of light. So I had to go back and research. We're going to go back to Apollo 11 and try to figure out what the moon's surface characteristics are. So why not find out what the characteristics are by the first guys that landed on the moon, quote, right? So Apollo 11 image library, I found this magnificent desolation, and it's like magnificent deception, really. The Apollo 11 moonwalk pictures. So this, you could go to this, if you click this on, you could go right to these pictures. But so I wanted to find out what the surface of the moon, what they say look like, and what its color is, right? So here's some pictures, right? Neil Armstrong picture. Neil Armstrong picture of Buzz Aldrin. That good old footprint we saw some time back of Buzz Aldrin's footprint in the surface of the moon. Picture of the landing gear by Buzz Aldrin. Neil Armstrong picture of, quote, the lunar module. And so all these things, what I'm trying to gather here is now I'm seeing what the, quote, color of the moon is, and, to try to match it. So I'm going to try to do. So then remember this is the moon dust that they brought back, the regolith collected during Apollo 17. It looks actually darker than this. When these pictures were taken. So I use this one more as something to try to come up with what's the color of the moon, quote, surface that they say. This looked a little bit too dark, but I still kept it in the analysis. Oh, by the way, this is Toyota's Highlander moon dust color. Isn't that interesting? They push it whatever way they can.
Yeah, the deathbed confession guy, he said they use cement mix, like concrete powder.
Yeah.
For the moon soil.
Really?
And that's what it looks like. It looks exactly like cement mix.
Wow. So here we go. This is fun to do. So I thought, okay, I'm going to try to select based on that LRV value, what grayness looks close to what they were saying. So I use this picture of the lunar module, and then compared. I thought this color that I say yes on was really close. And I put the moon dust picture. I thought, no, it's too dark. You know, it's too dark. And so I went to Michael's and found a color that this is the color, the selected color that's going to come out of that spray can. It looked like it really well matches pretty well. Don't you think? I mean, it really does. And so I thought, well, okay, I'm going to use that. So now we're going to go to video 8. I don't know if I loaded that up yet. This might be the last one too.
That was really, this is really good ways to show how this stuff is bogus, how the moon is a light.
Oh, yeah, one more.
Using their own photos. Who would have thought to use their photos? We actually have these samples. This is genius. Taking their own photos to color match it and do the light. This is cool.
And so what I did with that is I bought a styrofoam moon ball, sphere of about 12 inches of diameter and spray painted it that color. So, and this video will go through it. So why don't you go ahead and play it? Actually, it was over there somewhere.
Full moon observational test. A full moon observational test was set up in my garage. A 15,000 lumen LED work light was used to represent the sun. A 10-inch diameter foam ball painted matte deep gray was used to represent the moon and the moon's surface color. The LED work light was placed on a table approximately 15 feet away from the gray 10-inch diameter foam ball. In the next two videos, we will observe how the light emanating from the work light reflects off the gray 10-inch diameter foam ball representing the moon. The LED work light is on and emanating its light onto the 10-inch diameter foam ball representing the moon. It was a breezy night, which caused the foam ball to rotate and swing throughout the observational test. Before zooming in on the foam ball, we observe a small center area of the ball is reflecting light at a brighter intensity than the rest of the ball. The color of the intensity of the reflected light in the center of the ball is white because the work light incident rays are hitting the ball's curved surface tangent line, and the reflected rays bounce straight back to the camera's observation point. As the work light incident rays hit the ball's curved surface from the center and out to the perimeter edge of the ball, the intensity of the reflected rays is less. This is because the ball's curved surface tangent lines reflect the rays farther away from the camera's observation point. In this video, we observe the same characteristics of the reflected light rays on the ball's curved surface. The intensity of the reflected rays are brighter in the center of the ball and lesser out to the perimeter edge of the ball. We observe the intensity of the reflected light rays are not the same across the surface of the ball. However, when we observe any full moon, the entire moon surface of the moon has the same brightness level, which tells us the moon is emanating its own light. Based on our observations of the full moon test, we can develop a reflected ray spectrum of the 10-inch diameter foam ball representing the moon using the light reflectance value chart. We see three light reflectance colors across the ball: 100%, 90%, and 80%. This diagram of the circumference of a spherical full moon shows the sun's parallel incident light rays hitting the moon's curved surface. The reflected rays bounce off the moon's surface at the same incident angle as the sun's incident rays along the tangent line on the moon's curved surface. We observe the reflected rays are less intense going from the center of the moon's surface to the outer edge of the moon's surface. Based on our observational test, this is the sun-reflected ray LRV spectrum of a spherical full moon. Again, based on our observational test, this is the sun-reflected ray LRV spectrum of a spherical full moon. Now let's compare our observational test to what we really observed during a real full moon. We observed the light intensity or brightness of the moon is the same from the center of the circle to all along the edge. The diagram next to the picture of a full moon depicts the reason of this being repeatedly observed. The moon is a flat plasma disk. During a full moon, the moon is fully charged or lit and fully emanates its light rays onto Earth. Light emanating from a flat plasma disk moon is repeatedly observable during all moon phases. When the moon is between 100% illumination and 0% illumination, we always observe the light intensity or brightness of the moon is the same across the part of the lit disk, always. Observations of the lit areas of the moon throughout the moon phases. During a full moon, the entire moon disk is lit with the same illumination level. During crescent/gibbous waxing and waning phases, as shown on the previous slide, and on this 29-day lunar cycle, the curved edge of the moon facing the sun is always lit, extending to half the circumference of the moon. The lit areas of the moon disk are all at the same illumination level. The unlit areas of the moon disk are dark and invisible. During a new moon, the entire moon disk is unlit, dark, and invisible. Based on the observations of the full moon test performed, we can conclude the intensity of the reflected light rays on a spherical surface/moon surface are brighter in the center of the sphere and lesser out to the perimeter edge of the sphere. However, when we repeatedly observe a full moon, the intensity and brightness of the moon's light rays are at the same illumination level and therefore are emanating from the moon. As stated in Almighty Yahweh scriptures, the moon is a luminaire/light.
Okay, cool. You got us on.
That is cool.
You got it on.
Yeah, I think we got some sound. Hopefully you guys can hear us. That is cool. Got the moon. We found it. My son found it. He thought it was a ball. He's ready to play with this. Yeah, and not only that, I mean, think how many miles away do they say the moon is? 238,000 miles. And you have the inverse square law going into effect with that moon dust that looks like cement mix, because that's what it is. I think I've played that stuff before, and I've always saw that, and I had flashbacks to that. And the deathbed confession guy said that
Wow.
that's what it was. That's what his dad told him before
Amazing.
he died. It was concrete powder, just loads of it in a warehouse. That's why the shadow, when he had the lunar module picture, the shadow of the lunar module was reaching the horizon. You never see something on a horizon like that. There's no obstructions, there's no trees. Like, their horizon was really close to the actual lunar module, the stage that they were on, that they had made. So the presentation, let's see, is it this one, slide 13?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. Cool. Okay, so I guess we'll go right into the next video. This is going to be talking about, so another way we can prove that the moon is a light is by observing what kind of light comes off of it. We know that the sun is a warm light, because during the day we feel the warmth, but we can't really tell about the moon unless we do some temperature measurement with a thermometer that can provide like really close comparisons. So this was back in January 2023. I did it. I never posted it up, but now I think it's a really good time where I went out. It was almost a full moon night. It was the night before a full moon. And so I'm going to show, I took temperature measurements. So we're going to put that video up. I guess, did I put it up yet? I probably didn't do it. Let's see. Present video file. Okay. This is the last one here. So just put it up.
Test of direct moonlight versus moon shadows. On January 5th, 2023, between time 22:05, which is 10:05 p.m., and time 22:30, which is 10:30 p.m., temperature readings of direct moonlight and moon shadows were taken using an infrared thermometer at Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. On January 25th, 2023, the moon was at 99% illumination. Two different surfaces were used to obtain temperature readings of direct moonlight and moon shadows at time 10:05 p.m. and time 10:30 p.m. These surfaces were a wood board and cardboard. We will now observe the outcome of the temperature readings in the following video.
It's about 5 after 10 in the evening, January 5th, 2023. The temperature out here is about 57. I've set up a table here with a piece of wood going across. It's above the ground, and a piece of cardboard here because I'm going to take temperatures of direct moonlight and then moonlight in the shade. Right here, it's moon is about 95% full. Tomorrow it will be full. So what I'm going to do is use a far infrared thermometer here to take temperatures of direct moonlight and then shadow moonlight. So there's a section right here, right there, that is in the shade on the wood board. You can see it's 52 degrees, and then I'm going to come over here in the full moonlight, and it's 47 point there. And I'm going to do the same thing with the cardboard in moonlight right here. It is moonlight, looks like it's 51.5, and then in the shade right here it's 53.1. So you can see the difference. The moonlight is a cold light compared to the shadows. Interesting. So it's about 10:30 now. Temperature's 57 degrees. I'll take some more temperatures here. This is in the direct moonlight on the wood board. 47.7. And then here it is in the shade over here. 53.1. Then the cardboard in the moonlight right there. 49.6. And the cardboard in the shade right there. 53.56. And there you go.
Okay, so we can see from that test that the moon actually is emanating light. It's a cold light, and that would make sense. Again, we mentioned earlier that we have a positive and negative charge between the sun is a positive charge and the moon's a negative charge. So we would see the light that's emanating out of the moon different than the sun. It's actually a colder light. I think I did a comparison here. This is a summary chart basically that I did for all that data. So you can see the wood board, direct moonlight 47.7, moon shadow temperature 52.8, direct moonlight temperature colder than the moon shadows by 5.1. And we had the cardboard at 51.9 of direct moonlight, and then the moon shadow was 53.1. So it wasn't as big of a difference there, but it still was 1.2 degrees, where the moonlight temperature was colder than the moon shadow. So at time 10:30 p.m., wood board, direct moonlight 47.7, moon shadow 53.1, direct moonlight temperature colder than moon shadows 5.4. The cardboard, it went higher this time. The direct moonlight was 49.6. The moon shadow was 53.6, so it was a 4 degrees temperature where the moonlight temperature was colder than the moon shadows. So again, this kind of goes along with the electromagnetic light characteristics of the sun and moon. The sun is a luminaire with a positive charge emanating warm light, and the moon is a luminaire with a negative charge emanating cold light. Observations of the sun heat during the day, pretty simple with that because we can feel it. During a clear sunny day, direct sunlight is warm to hot. Shade underneath a tree provides protection from the direct sunlight and is cooler. So the sun's going to be just the moon's going to be just the opposite. Repeatable tests prove direct moonlight is on average 3.9 degrees Fahrenheit colder than the moon shadow. It also is a means of telling us that it is emanating light, although it's cold light. A reflective surface would not emanate anything difference in temperature, especially if it's, you would not even read any difference to it. So it's another data point to realize that the moon is a light. And I think that is it for the presentations. So
Awesome. Yeah, thank you, George. That's
Yeah, you're
very,
welcome.
somebody said in the, I hope we're picking up clear.
yeah,
Somebody said in the comments, very thanks for the thorough, or let's see,
that's
all
not
the thoroughness. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's very thorough compared to me. It's like, I'm like, yeah, moonlight cold, sun hot. You know,
yeah, right,
He's
right.
like,
And it's
here
a
it is.
light. It's a light. It's a cold light, but
Yeah.
it's a light. You know,
Yeah.
it's a reflective surface would never do that. So all this information that was shown is trying to prove that the moon is, you know, a luminary light, that it has its characteristics that Yahweh, its laws that Yahweh provided it to do. And so we saw in different ways of what's going on. And hopefully it makes people understand that you just go back to, you know, Genesis, Jubilees, Enoch. A light is a light. A light emanates. A light doesn't reflect. And so we just realize that God's word is true. And we, you know, Kingdom in Context always said you got to make sure you got the right context. Well, the sad thing is, I think the mainstream churches have been educated through the colleges to make that context of a light to be something totally different, which is different and not what Yahweh's scripture says. So we need to really look for that truth. And I hope this helps people understand it more and maybe explain it to other people as well. You know, there's a lot of stuff going on here with numbers and geometry and all that. Some of these videos, right now they're unlisted on my YouTube channel, but I'm going to open them up to just be able to be watched separately, you know, separate little videos, and, you know, show them to somebody, your friend or family, and just that might make them, help them change their mind. And a lot of my other videos, the first one, Earth's geometry, is a really good one to watch. It proves that basic thing, and I've been talking to Josh about this one, is that with the creation standard, you need a foundation to start with. And of course, you talked about the Earth's foundation. One of the foundations about the Earth is nobody really teaches about the characteristics and the actions of water. You know, if we can get people to realize the action of water, number one, is that it always flows from uphill to downhill. And it's going that way because it's seeking its own level of waters. And then the second one is the surface of water always seeks its own level, which would be finally at the oceans, and it never bends or curves. It never will. And you know, we thought about trying to do some demonstrations with that. But that video that I did, it's about an hour long. It really goes into depth about it. It disproves the curvature of the Earth by actually using Google Maps and then the United States Geological Survey, where they have a topographic map, and anybody can go there, and you can click on any shoreline along any ocean, and it's going to say elevation above sea level 0 feet. You cannot have that. You can't have the North Pole saying 0 feet and the South Pole saying 0 feet. They are literally 8,000 miles in difference in elevation because they're not level, right? But then it also goes in showing how the commercial airlines, their air travel routes, their air routes, work perfectly on a circular level plane Earth, the Gleason's map. It shows exactly why they go in the directions they go. Because on the globe map, it shows them going like up north, up to a V, and down south. Whereas why couldn't they just go straight across the oceans? Then you see how the continents are laid out differently on the circular level plane map, and it makes sense. And then video number 2 is basically navigation and the true size of Earth. Those are 2 really good ones that would be basic for anybody trying to tell other people about the truth about the Earth. And then the sun and the moon, all these things were Yahweh created the heavens and the earth, not a universe. So you want to do any questions or anything?
Yeah, if you guys had any questions, feel free to ask. That was impressive. It's a learning experience for all of us, and it's great to see all the research come into effect like that, because I like what he's talking about with the sea level. I remember in the very early days thinking we were always told that boats, you know, they go over that curve, but I'm like, you know, you're at the ocean, you know, somewhere like Panama or somewhere, it's like it's flat out there. when you turn back to the land would be going downhill. So the water would be going uphill to the ocean. And I remember thinking it would work both ways on a sphere, not just, oh, there's the water, things go downhill.
Right.
You look back behind you at the shoreline, things would be going downhill. You would be going, it's amazing that water would all be flowing up that curve to the sea.
Yep.
And that doesn't happen anywhere. And I think Neil deGrasse Tyson talks about that Earth bulge because it's pear shaped. It's chubbier at the equator. And he says that, I think I could be wrong, but he said that's like a bulge the size of Mount Everest. It's like you can't see it from space, it's not that significant, but like, oh, it's there and it's really big, and it would be freezing up there in that elevation. Mount Everest heights of bulge of water, like that's impressive. If that was really what it was, trips would be different. Going towards the equator would be hard. You'd have to, get into a pressurized cabin and go there. Like it would be totally different, but we do not have to account for any of that, curvature with lasers, radar. None of that accounts for the curvature.
Right. And in the video of Geotruth, and the truth about Earth's geometry, I talk about the Mississippi River. That was a good example, because when you go on the topographic map for the USGS, it'll tell you that it's Lake Itasca, it's up north, and then Mississippi River goes down to the Gulf of Mexico. So when you look at the elevation where it's a lake, that's where the river starts. It's like I think 1,500 feet above sea level or something like that. I can't remember exactly, but it tells you it's only 1,500 feet above sea level, but yet it's traveling over 1,900 miles to get to the Gulf of Mexico. And that's 0 feet elevation there. So when you look at the actual distance and you look at the curvature of the Earth according to NASA and mainstream science, in order for the Mississippi River to do that, it has to go 52 miles uphill from Lake Itasca, and then to go downhill the rest of the way to get to the Gulf of Mexico. It's just impossible. It just always goes downhill from 1,500 feet down to 0 feet.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
It's all downhill to sea level.
Yeah.
That is cool. Cool stuff. Let me see if I see any questions.
Okay.
Wow, amazing. Thank you so much. Yeah. Thank you guys for joining us. I know this was quite the lesson. He's always bringing so much. If put all these series onto like a DVD, and you could watch them, pause them, rewind. Cool stuff. I love the imagery with the solar eclipse shadow.
Yeah.
On their model with the new moons, they never have that. And I know you see those everywhere with Earth science for 6th grade. Every classroom has the moon phases and the globe in the middle. It was right next door to my class this year. That's what they had. And I saw it every day. I walk by and I see the moon phases, and it's cool. I should have added the shadow just to mess with them a bit. There's the shadow. And they don't do it, though. They just have their heliocentric blinders on, like we all did. Because my first year teaching Earth science, I was using a globe and I was doing the Coriolis effect. And so we've been fortunate to come a long way. Blessed. I used to show space movies to my children, and the father was patient. I look back at that and I'm like, man, he was waiting, patiently. But I think he put me where he did for a reason, to let me see that these are good people we're reaching. Yes, they're teaching the globe. Yes, they're teaching evolution, but they don't know. They're blind. They're blind, and they need to have their eyes open.
That's for sure.
So awesome. Over 2 hours. Let me see if I can move this and see how long we've been going. 2 hours and 18 minutes. Good job.
Not too bad.
Endurance. That's after a long day. We've been out, and I was telling him, I have proof that the sun is close. We were actually, since we were up north, we went and I got my shirt on. I don't know if you can see it. This is for Bill Shute, if you're watching.
Oh, nice.
Best trash man in Maine. He's a hardworking guy, awesome guy. I got to meet him. But we went up there and we'd be outside all day long and we would never get burned. My son, who's very fair skinned, my youngest, he's 2, he gets a little rosy cheeked, but we're all fine. And we went out with George on the jet skis today going like 70. That was a blast. My son says that's the most fun I've ever had, and we've done a lot with this kid. So he's done it all. And he said that was fun. And, but yeah, we got sun today. I mean, I'm over here burning, and that was just for a couple hours being out in the sun. That doesn't happen when you go further from our local sun. If you don't believe the sun is close, come to the south and you'll see, it's right above you. It is burning down on you. We were in like what seems like fall weather just hours away. That's how close our sun is, and it's moving. That sun is moving. It's cool to experience that in real time, experiencing our biblical Earth model by getting out and traveling. You can tell a difference. It's pretty cool.
Mhm.
You're in a different season. You go to Australia, it's wintertime.
Right.
Like that's how close the sun is. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
We have this biblical earth model. The Messiah didn't have to teach it. They already knew about it. When he was baptized, the firmament opened up, the voice from above the firmament came down. This is my beloved son. Said that before. And so he's going to return.
Amen.
We're going to all see. Everyone's going to see.
Yes.
And so
Can't
that'll
wait.
be
Can't wait.
the most rapid biblical earth lesson right there. Boom. What happened to this sky above us? It just opened up,
Mhm. Yeah.
No room for deep space there. Yeah, someone said in your spare time you need to index this video. That would be fantastic. Oh yeah, like this minute mark is this and that. Yeah, I might go through, and if I have time, I'm going to be really busy. I'm getting
Yeah,
nervous.
you
Creation
are.
Standard is starting in less than a month, and my wife has a lot of work to do. She's going to be giving out the class codes to people. I know people have been registering and starting their monthly payments. You will get a code. It'll be early August. I want to have the classes and everything neatly organized with all the links for orientation. And I'll have a recorded video of orientation that you can watch. So if you watch the orientation video and you think, okay, that answered all my questions, you don't have to join, but I want to set everybody at ease, including me. I want this to be peaceful. I want the first few weeks to be flexible. You join into a class and you go, oh my goodness, this is too advanced. I need to go back a class. It's no big deal. We can work that out. It happens all the time in public school. I get attached to these students, and one time I had an entire class taken from me. They're like, that class is too small. We're just going to phase it out and give it to other teachers. And I'm like, no, my students. And they put them in different classes because it was like 12 people and in a big science lab room. And I wanted it to work. I was excited to have the small class, but things happen, things change. So I want this to be a spirit-led adventure where if the Father says, I want you guys to do this more, or I want you to add more live hangouts, whatever he tells us to do, I want to do. I want it to be organized, and I want to have a visual of what we want to do, but I want it to be known that it could change. Who knows? And you guys could be wanting something different once we get started. And if that's where we're led to go, we'll go there, but it's going to be fun. We'll be partnered up with people like George, guest speakers, you name it. I want to have it, a yearbook. Like I've been thinking about this a lot, and I get excited thinking about all the things we could do, but we've been blessed by the support from so many people coming on board and been willing, like George, to do. We're about to go do vacuum experiments.
Yeah.
And so it's going to be fun. I'm excited. Hopefully nobody gets hurt.
Josh, thanks for
no real
much,
astronauts.
Thanks for having this together, man. It's a blessing.
Yeah.
Love you.
Yeah, we love you, brother. You guys thank George. Go subscribe to his channel. It's in the description if you want to get some good lessons like that. If you're just into learning, like most of us are now, figuring out what we live on, go to the description. Make sure you subscribe. Hit the little bell button. For George Nuber of Geotruth, and his awesome wife Teresa's over here watching our family, my children. And he had Cohen on the drums, my boys too. And I come in here and George is teaching him lessons, and my son looked like Phil Collins. I'm like, how did he do that? He's like, do this, and my son's listening to him. So it's pretty cool. A natural born teacher. But we'll go ahead and let you guys go. Thank you so much. Don't see any questions.
Thank you.
This has been fun. Awesome. We will see you guys really soon. Don't get too distracted by all the stuff going on in the media. I know it's crazy.
Right.
I may talk about it because the script has been leaked, and so to speak. So there's one script that matters, and it's that prophetic book that they all know about that they try to ban and make seem like a fairy tale. So keep up with that script,
Right.
that prophecy, the soon to come reunion where we're all gathered together. So, all right. We love you, family. We will see you soon.